Hey everybody! Today we're going to talk about things that I've learned while living here in England that absolutely blew my mind. So the drinking age, it kind of varies depending on whether you're just consuming it, you're purchasing it, or you're serving it. So we're going to go through a little bit of that just so that you guys have a better understanding of why it blew my mind. Okay, so the drinking age is 18 in order to buy, sell, or consume alcohol, technically. But if you're 16 or 17 and you're having a meal in an establishment like a pub with people that are over 18, they can buy you a drink. It has to be limited, I believe, to beer, cider, and wine, and you can consume that while you're on the premises, but you cannot purchase it yourself. And you can technically consume alcohol in the privacy of your own home between the ages of 5 and 16 at the parental discretion. It is frowned upon, obviously, to give a 5-year-old drink here. They're not that lax when it comes to drinking, though I know a lot of people might not realize that. I'm still baffled by the fact that you can technically give your 7-year-old a little bit of brandy or something. That's just really, really strange to me. That would never fly in America at all. And here in England, there's betting shops everywhere. So you can go and bet on a football game or a rugby game. I don't know. I believe the Olympics are going on right now, so I believe you could go and bet on the Olympics as well. There's dog race tracks everywhere. There's horse racing tracks in a lot of locations as well. It's a really big gambling culture, actually. Even to the point where if you go into most pubs, there's at least one, if not several, what they call fruity machines. So they're basically like slot machines like you would find in Las Vegas or Atlantic City in America, where you would just put in some pound coins and you just play you play the lottery basically and while you're having a pint with your mates. In America, gambling is allowed, but in very certain instances and is regulated very heavily in America. It is really strange to me that it's such an embraced pastime here in England, only because I come from a culture where it's so taboo and it's so frowned upon, and it's regulated so heavily. And I feel like it might, like the drinking culture, might actually create a bigger allure to gambling in America. I love to gamble, so this is actually not good for me because I'll gamble my rent away if I'm allowed to. Luckily, I've learned a little bit of self-control in my older age and I don't actually frequent the betting shops or anything like that. Also, luckily, I don't really know how they work, so that is something in my favor. But the gambling culture here in England did take me a little bit to get used to the fact that it's so accessible and it's just such a part of everyday life that people don't even realize it's there most of the time. I love this law. I absolutely adore that you can drink in public here. I don't really partake in it that much, to be honest with you. You would think with the amount of commuting that I do and the amount of walking that I do that I would partake in it a little bit more, but it's really just because I'm not that big a drinker or anything like that. But I do love the idea of Saturday or Sunday and just like going to the local shop, grabbing something to drink, and just being able to walk home and drink it without anybody having to stop you, without anyone giving you a hard time. Even getting dirty looks, even as a culture, it's not frowned upon in any way. I love that. I think it's fantastic, and I definitely think it's something that would help America relax a little bit more if they adopted it. People in England are very passionate. People in England are very much more emotional than you would think they are, especially when you go by the stereotype. But it's not that they're not emotional. It's not that they're not passionate about their families, and it's not that they don't have their own sensitivities. It's more that it's strategically placed. Like they know to not get offended by a joke that's a generality and it's not specific towards them. And they know that there's always issues with family life and you can always make fun of the missus or make fun of the husband. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a negative view of your personal relationship and things like that. And their patriotism, coming from a country where the patriotism is shoved down your throat at a very early age and you almost are considered anti-American if you don't wave a flag on 4th of July. I expected to not see anything really here in England, but when for example, the king got coronated, there was British flags everywhere. When England was getting really, got to the finals of the Euros, there's English flags everywhere. And here now, the Olympics are on right now in France, and a lot of people are rooting for Great Britain, and a lot of the Commonwealth countries too. And you see it when you just see it come out in these big moments, and it is a big momentum rather than having it come out all the time 24/7. They're very strategic in how sensitive they are. If they really feel offended or they really feel like you crossed the line, they will tell you, but for the most part they'll try to take it as a laugh. And they're just extremely passionate about the things that they're very, very passionate about, particularly their culture. If I've learned this the hard way, they are very protective of the English culture, and they will bitch and moan and complain about everything, even the monarch. And they're not necessarily royalists, and they'll complain about the monarchy and everything like that. But if you, as a foreigner, say anything about it, you better make sure you're in good company, because they will jump on you for that and say it's not your, just look at your country, blah, 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 things like that. So they are very protective of their culture, and they're very protective of the things that they love. It's just not something that's out in the forefront of everybody's life 24/7 like it is in America. No, it's a constitutional monarchy. The monarch doesn't have any official political or executive role in running the country. They are the sovereign head of state, and they're the head of the Church of England, absolutely. But Parliament is there as the elected body that represents the people, and they actually have to pass all of the laws and things like that. However, if a new party takes power, a new prime minister is appointed, as happened recently here in England, they actually have to go to the monarch to get permission to take that position, and they have to have regular meetings with the monarch in order for the monarch to be aware of what's happening in the country and what the plans are for the country. Also, if they go to war, they need the armed forces in any way, they have to actually ask the monarch's permission to use their army, because technically it's the monarch's army. But a really, really important function that the monarch actually does have is that they do have the ability to dissolve Parliament. They think that Parliament is losing their way and not doing what is in the best interest for the country, or the people are uprising thinking that the Parliament is not representing them properly. The king can step in and dissolve Parliament and take power back over and revamp the whole parliamentary system. That to me is incredible. I didn't realize that. I thought it was more of just kind of like, the king and queen were just kind of there as tradition, and we're just kind of there to oversee maybe some like charitable and Commonwealth, foreign things, but not really getting it so involved in domestic politics and things like that. But it seems like they actually have a lot more influence in what happens within the country and the Commonwealth countries as well. I kind of like that, because I do think that there is strength in not being overly overt in what your power really is. But there is a check and balance with the people and with Parliament, so you can't have supreme and complete control. I like that balance of power. Coming from America, we're all about balance of power, not one entity having absolute power over anybody. So I think that that's a good system, especially considering that they've had a monarch for what, I don't know, thousands, tens of thousands of years probably. Not tens of thousands of years. They've had a monarch for thousands of years. So I think it's a good system to really keep the monarch in place, because it is some part of the English identity and part of how the country has evolved and become the modern England that it is, and also showing that the country is progressing and it is a republic and representative of the people in a lot of ways, and the will of the people will be recognized, and nobody will have a supreme power. I think that that's actually a really good balance of power between the two. There you go, guys. Those are the things that blew my mind about living here in England. I hope you liked the video. Hit that like button if you can, and I'll see you in the next one.